Thank you, everyone, for joining the Imagined Future session. I invited the panelists up here because I would like us to have a united front, as it were. So I'm Kalle Westerling. As Lydia said, I'm a research application manager at the Alan Turing Institute, which means that in my role, I help researchers think about real-world impact of their research and software that they're building. That's not why I'm here today. Today, I'm here to introduce you to a journey through time that we're about to make. So I invite all of you to bring your childlike enthusiasm for fantasy and imagination with you. This panel came about as a little group of us on the advisory board planning for this conference, we were thinking about what would be a good format for shaking up the traditional order of a conference, if you will, to shake up your minds. Shaping up does not need happening. So together with three invited visionaries here on stage with me, we will explore the myriad possibilities that artificial intelligence might bring about in our world in the coming decades. So our panelists will guide us through short, thought-provoking scenarios, drawing from their rich experiences and unique perspectives. Each have been given a year and a role that they will play, so beware. What they say in this coming role play that's coming up for you does not necessarily reflect their opinions. Rather, we have asked them to rework kind of their fears, excitements, ruminations into a beginning of a keynote speech on what AI will bring about in the next 100 years or so. So what would AI UK look like in 2034, in 2052, and in 2107, if that's how we're going to say that year? Who knows? As we all know, predictions of the future are always a futile endeavor. The complexity of societal, technological, and environmental variables renders the task of forecasting an uncertain and often humbling experience. The real future holds surprises, twists, and turns that defy even the most sophisticated predictive models, even the ones that we're talking about at this very conference, let alone humans thinking itself. So, this unpredictability then does not, however, diminish the value of contemplating future scenarios. Rather, it emphasizes the importance of flexibility, resilience, and continuous learning in an ever-changing world. By envisioning various futures, we equip ourselves not with a map, but with a compass, enabling us to navigate the unknown with insight and preparedness. So, let's not delay any further, because I see the timer ticking already. I want to delve into these futures that our panelists have envisioned and thought up for us. And then we're going to hopefully engage in a stimulating dialogue about the paths that AI might take in the future. And by then, I hope there's going to be a QR code up there for you to submit some questions to the panelists. And we're going to have Slido ready for you. So, without further ado, our first panelist, or our first presenter, is Carrie Hyde-Vermond. She is an experienced lawyer and researcher. Carrie's work examines how AI could transform justice in law, ensuring fairness and accessibility for all. Educated at King's College London and called to the bar in 2006, Carrie has delved into the legal ramifications of technology, particularly AI, through her extensive practice and research. Her engagement with the UKRI-funded research on AI's impact within judicial systems underscores her commitment to understanding and shaping the legal landscape as it intersects with these advanced technologies. Carrie's work at the Alan Turing Institute and leadership roles in law and technology forums highlight her influence in these critical discussions. Additionally, I'm really excited about this, her use of visualizations to demystify complex legal and technological concepts demonstrates her unique approach to legal education and public engagement. Her insight into AI's potential to transform legal processes and justice delivery are invaluable to what we're going to be hearing today, I think. So Carrie is going to transport us to the year 2034, only 10 years from now. So we're going to leap a mere decade into the future and explore the advancements in AI and the status of the world. So please give a warm welcome to Carrie Hyde-Vermond.
Thank you very much, and welcome to AI UK 2034. It's a real pleasure to welcome you here today, both from Westminster and globally, to describe what's going on now across the world. Today, for this conference, we're going to be looking at a huge variety of things. I'm just going to give you a little taste of what we're going to be talking about over the next few days. we're going to look on the research stage at the omni-ear. This is a new design that allows one to hear according to your own preference of communication. Let me be clear. We had, just 10 years ago, the ability to record your own voice and have one speak in an accent, sorry, in a whole different language, okay? This takes that technology beyond there, and it allows you to speak to any professional in their own language, or to receive and understand their communication without the barriers of language and specified communication. For example, you could have, you're sitting with your doctor, they can use their specialized medical language, and you'll hear it according to your own preferences, but using their voice, okay? So we're going to see how that allows people to go to court and represent themselves, and not have to use special legal language to do so. The judge, even if they are human in this case, can still understand what they're saying. Another thing that we're going to go and have a look at is, I think this was on the conversation stage, the human loops. And the human in the loop, as it was known, has now become, over the last few years, quite a specialized role. It allows one to supervise the use of AI models in a really effective way. And these individuals, a bit like many years ago, airline pilots had to be trained to step in just at the correct time. This allows people to supervise computer models, to ensure that they are functioning correctly, and this is actually supported by gaming technology. You can see some images from some of the games that have been used. I mean, of course, we don't normally call these games anymore, right? This is more of the training environment that we use to allow people to supervise things. But it allows people to see bias in real terms. It allows them to analyze these things carefully, using technology from visual science, like the visualization experts that we had many years ago, even in AI 24. This is how we interpret this now and allow people to question the models themselves. As a result, artists have, of course, become much more prominent in the use of, in the scrutiny of computer models. And we can see that, that various ways in which we communicate these ideas allows the idea, the careful scrutiny of computer concepts. On the conversation stage again, we have a new, really sort of experience to allow people to communicate with a new role that has come up in the last few years. That is of the observator. And the observator is an individual who is locally elected. And they are tasked with validating what happens on the ground with what is happening on the sort of in the virtual world. For example, in 2024, the world was shocked with the sort of uncertainty related to Kategate. This is the serious conspiracy theories and various situations over the uncertainty over what had become Catherine, Princess of Wales. And we found that having people on the ground able to validate particular images was something that we needed to build to deal with this sort of growing misinformation, the ability to have deepfakes, the ability to manipulate images. These observators are locally elected. They are, there's thousands across the UK, and this number is growing. And we're going to have an opportunity on the conversation stage to hear some of their experiences and the important work they are doing to counter disinformation. And so just to sort of close off, really, I'd give you a conclusion to this description of what's going to go on over these next few days. We're going to move to what will be considered the future stage, but is very much based in today's reality. Across the globe, there are two different scenarios developing, and we've all seen this in how we live our daily lives. In one, we increasingly hear the concerns of people facing a bureaucracy that is facilitated by automation, that is difficult to penetrate, and can feel like people are not getting their voice heard. And this is obviously something that we're trying to deal with, but it's something that is a very live situation right now. The other is a different vision, but it is still something that not everyone has questions about, of course. But it takes situations where there is, of course, ubiquitous surveillance. Everybody is surveilled now in every scenario they're in. However, that applies to the situations for the government, within the cabinet. All cabinet meetings are open. All board meetings are open, because surveillance pervades the entire across the country. At any space, you have the opportunity to log in and have a look at what's going on there. And we're starting to see the ramifications of that transparency play out. With that, I'd like to conclude and welcome you to AI 2034.
Thank you so much to Carrie. Next up, we will hear from Steph Wright, who is currently head of Scottish AI Alliance and co-founder of Diverse AI. Steph has an eclectic background, to say the least. It's very difficult to summarize her background. Spans from astrophysics to healthcare and AI strategy. With her rich background in arts management and the arts more broadly, Steph has demonstrated a deep commitment to blending creativity with technology. And transitioning into the realm of data and AI, she played a key role in a £1 million Cancer Innovation Challenge, aiming to harness AI's potential to revolutionize cancer care in Scotland. Currently leading the implementation of Scotland's national AI strategy, Steph embodies the intersection of technology and societal benefit, advocating for AI applications that are inclusive, ethical, and transformative. Her dedication to promoting diversity in STEM and her critical yet optimistic perspective on AI make her an invaluable contributor to our discussion today. And Steph will be taking us further into the future. We're now moving on to the year 2052. So let's go nearly 3 decades ahead and discover what innovations await us there. So please give a warm welcome to Steph Wright.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to AI UK 2052. This year is a special celebration. It is the 25th anniversary of the reckoning. The reckoning. Let's revisit that a bit. We're going to be talking about what happened and what has happened since all throughout today. But I'm just going to open the day with a bit of explanation, a bit of background. And as some of you here were born after the reckoning, I felt we need to have a little bit of a history lesson. So, 2027, 25th anniversary this year. It's where the irresponsible pursuit of AI led to a crunch point, which brought society to the edge of a breakdown, leading to joint global efforts to regulate and control AI development. The promise of a brighter future with AI came crashing down as the technology failed to deliver on its promises, and its harms became far more apparent than its benefits. Misinformation and disinformation spread through social and mainstream media, testing democracy. Huge, significant global elections were impacted. Deepfakes caused significant societal harms and a mental health crisis amongst young people. The copyright battle in Gen AI initiated an AI winter as companies struggled to deliver on their overinflated market values. This AI winter provided enough of a pause for people to fight back. The dominant political systems of the time were not working and were too entrenched in party politics and corporate interests. People were fed up. Technology has not delivered what it was supposed to, a better world for everyone. Civil society fought back by setting up grassroots political parties to take on incumbent governments and successfully challenge them. These new governments united in a global effort to tackle harms done by technology. Thinking on AI shifted from treating it purely as a technology to what it really was, which is a socio-economic and political system. Through regulation, standards, and policy, giant tech monopolies were dismantled. Tech powers were crippled as assets were frozen and seized. There was a global crackdown on social media. Wealth was redistributed through new global regulations on wealth thresholds for organizations and individuals. Earnings above those thresholds had to be redirected to tackling global problems. And if companies and individuals didn't do this voluntarily, they were forced, their assets were taken from them and redistributed on their behalf. This global crackdown on the hoarding of wealth brought about a new world order, bringing together ideologies from all over the world. The redistributed wealth was allocated to research and development of AI and other technologies for good, tackling poverty, climate change, and mental health crisis, the global food crisis. There's a coordinated global digital and AI literacy effort. The global net zero transition was achieved in 2050. Yay. And the planet is recovering. So 25 years on, how are we doing? Have we forgotten all this? Do we not, are we setting ourselves up to repeat some of the mistakes we made? The reckoning has set humanity on a better path. The geopolitical landscape has permanently transformed. Global regulatory bodies grounded in human rights for technology are working well. Every person on Earth has access to high-quality education, benefits from full digital connectivity. We're not out of the woods yet with climate change. The planet's still recovering, but we're getting there. Advances in quantum computing has led to a new AI summer, and universal basic services enabled by the great wealth distribution has all but erased poverty. Healthcare advances progress at an astonishing pace. Those of you who are fortunate to be born after the reckoning will never know of a world where widespread unethical and exploitative development and use of technologies like AI, you wouldn't know of a world on track to catastrophic climate change and where equitable access to technology was not a given. However, one of the key lessons we have to learn that we've learned in the last 25 years is the importance of choice. Our new world order has only succeeded as people and society were offered active choices in their AI-enabled futures. The power imbalance was corrected. An example of this was previous assumption that people would be grateful to have their mundane and dangerous work taken away by AI and AI-powered robotics. But this was replaced by offering a choice. Those in the workforce that were happy with what they did were given an option to work alongside AI and technologies through advances in AI and smart cobotics. This choice was a direct result of full participatory engagement with civil society after the reckoning. Businesses and governments should never assume without engaging with the people that decisions will impact. Nothing about us without us. So I hope you all enjoy the celebration today and ensure that the future is bright for us all. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Steph. As you can see, we have some positive outlooks here. We were trying to get them to sign up for negative outlooks. It was difficult. We need some hope today, but we'll get back to that in the Q&A, I think. So our final speaker before we get to that of today is Bill Thompson, a pioneering figure in the digital realm since 1984, renowned for his insightful perspectives on how technology shapes our society. Bill's journey began as the Internet ambassador for the UK's first commercial internet service provider and has since played a key role in numerous digital initiatives, including the establishment of The Guardian's first website. His dedication to leveraging the internet for civil society's benefit led to significant contributions at the BBC, where he focused on partnerships that emphasize digital sharing and creative reuse. Today, Bill leads future value research at BBC Research and Development, continuing to influence the tech world as a respected journalist, advisor, and commentator. His commitment to the digital public space and extensive experience in tech and media underscore his vital contributions to our dialogue here today on the potential futures of AI. And Bill is going to take us the furthest into the future that we are going to travel today. So we're going to go to the year 2107, so 84 years into the future, and learn what's new. So please give a warm welcome to Bill Thompson.
Thank you. Oh, joy. Oh, joy. Let me just... I picked up your phone.
Thank you.
Tragically, I don't know the passcode, but I have a machine from 2107 that will crack it in about 3 seconds.
We won't have phones then.
That was beautifully optimistic. Tragically, misleading. Welcome to AI UK 2107. The trees look wonderful here, don't they? In the end, the global population bottomed out at about 4 billion, and it felt like a victory because all our simulations show just how close we came to complete species loss. So let me give you some context. The term AI was coined about 160 years ago. It's 8 decades since voice-controlled systems like Alexa. The LLM explosion was a couple of decades before I was born, but the excitement on all the faces in the recordings is charming. It's delightful. Sadly, not even the largest models could change human nature enough to get us working together on a planetary scale. So it's just 75 years since global temperatures exceeded 3 degrees above pre-industrial levels. We didn't swerve the climate emergency, I'm afraid. We went straight through it. Tried to remember enough to rebuild on higher ground, to grow plants in unyielding soil and construct to survive powerful winds. We learned to live without reliable sewage, electricity, connectivity, or harvests. We explored what it means to be human and to be connected to the planet instead of acting like it was a place to plunder before we moved on. And the surprising thing was we managed to get through it with only 4 billion fewer human beings. 3 decades of chaos, climate refugees, lost cities, lost growing land, and water wars, they were hard. And after the first few years, even the billionaires realized that Mars wasn't going to happen and that making life manageable on Earth was their only chance. But it did take a long time before any sense emerged that humanity as a whole might work together under a new dispensation. And it wasn't until around 2050 that things started to come together. So for the last half century, the world's taken a different path. We live much simpler lives. It turned out, however, that it was possible to harden the tech infrastructure even though we couldn't save the food web. Lots of the tech is different. It's smaller, it's more grounded, it's more connected. But we've remembered what we have remembered what we have remembered. And at the same time, we're more patient, we're less acquisitive, we're more social. We don't accumulate. There are no billionaires. We rework, we remake, we repair, recycle. We limit our use of new resources. We have energy systems using wind and water and solar and nuclear. And the systems that serve us are machines. They are the systems that serve us. Some of you, from this perspective, may remember back in 2000 when the dot-com crash happened. And one of the reasons a lot of startups got going in the years straight after that was because a lot of the infrastructure was left behind. All those servers, all that internet connectivity was there to be used. Turns out the same thing happens when you seriously disrupt a weather system. So the H100s still worked, even though there was no internet to connect them to for a decade. Old phones have good chips in them. And for around 30 years, we basically plundered the debris of extractive capitalism. Then, when we'd re-established reliable electricity and a working comms network, we started thinking about how to make the advanced stuff again. Retooling. We could even manufacture our own GPUs. We had the old data, the old models, the old apps and services. There were code repositories on the drives to mine. We were not starting from scratch. But we were standing in a different place. A place where the questions were not about getting rich, but about making a sustainable world, one that reduced starvation and thirst and fear and suffering. Felt like the right thing to do. So we're running a lot of solar, but making panels is hard, and we don't like to mine if we can't help it. We're getting a lot of wind, but making turbines that stay up is hard, because the winds are quite serious. Turns out, oddly enough, that a well-designed nuclear reactor isn't much more complicated than a Victorian steam engine. And the tolerances are a lot greater than you'd expect, so we've got a lot of them. I mean, we do lose some territory from time to time, but not as much as you'd expect. Making and maintaining robots takes time. And one of the things we realize is it pulls us from the land and from the spaces we live in. But building machines to support and sustain a bearable life for everyone is a lot easier than satisfying the peculiar needs of already privileged groups of people. So we do that. We're not searching for AGI anymore, or indeed augmented individuals, but an augmented society. And we use the AI systems we have to offer guidance, to give support. We're not looking to replace human labor because we know that human labor brings value to the process and benefit to the person if it's done in service of something other than the ego of a desperate billionaire. So we're doing okay. Not everywhere, not everyone, but a good enough proportion to claim that we are on a sustainable path when we're in harmony. To borrow an analogy from some friends, the dark mountain has some lights on it. However, and this is where I need your help, we are not clear yet. CO2 levels aren't rising, but they aren't falling fast enough. Our models aren't good enough to really know why. The planet still contains many mysteries, but we're seeing temperatures rising and weather systems disrupted. We lost a significant chunk of Madagascar last year. There's no sign Australia will be coming back anytime soon. Florida is the new Dogger Bank. If only about now, we'd seriously try to put the AI systems you have today at the service of humanity, doing what they can do. Instead of seeking a silicon godhead or imagining that designing better PowerPoint decks would save anyone from anything, we might have done it differently. In the end, we didn't need the machines to write our code for us. We needed people to talk to each other and recognize that we have to work together to solve our common problems. And maybe there's something in what we can say today that will help us over the next few years. So that's what I wanted to say. Let's talk to each other. And I'd just like to finish by thanking everyone for sharing their insights with me today as part of this simulation. Although this is presented as a theatrical version of time travel, of course, time travel doesn't exist. So what I've done is I've spun up a simulacrum of AI UK 2024 in one of our advanced data centers as a probe into our future options, trying to figure out why you all made the decisions you did so we can figure it out. Because 40 years after the jackpot, we are in trouble again. We chose 2024 because it's the last year we have reliable data for. Everything gets a bit hazy with AI-generated garbage from now on. And so if we'd used 2025, you'd all be hallucinating zombies with 6 fingers. Obviously, this sim will be closed down at the end of the day. So thank you all for your service. And please do eat all the cakes because they won't have any effect. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Bill for bringing us to a final point, which is terrifying. We're now all part of the simulation, so welcome all simulacra here to all the simulacra on stage, and really framing our conversation in a slightly problematic, potentially way, but you know,
it's not
here we are.
problematic for me.
Right.
I get to go home tonight. And
Right.
Yeah, I have some nice tofu to look forward to, sitting under the trees. It'll be, sorry, people.
But there's no cake, apparently. That's
have
only
cake,
okay.
but I have to be careful how much cake I eat. Whereas you can eat what you want because
It's not real.
It's not real.
gently.
There we go. So I have the unadmirable exercise here of bringing all of this together in some kind of shape or form or fashion. I'm not going to try to do that at all. But I want us to begin the Q&A session. I believe that there's going to be a QR code popping up on stage there, or on screen there. There we go. Perfect. And so there will be a possibility for you to pop in your question in a little chat, which I'm sure you've seen in all the other sessions.
I spoke at a conference last week, and I thought, everyone wants my photograph. And then I realized the QR code. Yeah. So humiliating.
Exactly. Well, so I want to kick us off with one question. I'm going to do maybe two questions, one extremely negative and one more positive. And I feel bad for starting on the negative, but I think we'll dig our way out of this. I sort of wanted to start providing this reliable data that you talked about, Bill. And so to all panelists, more than 60 countries, representing half the world's population, 4 billion people, will go to the polls this year, voting in presidential, legislative, and local elections. And all of you kind of touched on this in different ways. There's fear of misinformation, there's fear of deepfakes taking center stage. This is all against a background of fears about AI technologies being used in unethical ways, merely being trained on biased data, all of the things that we've talked about here. Labor crises loom potentially. Will my job even exist in 10 years from now? Rapid development of AI leaves, a lot of us behind, scrambling for resources with even dealing with how we're going to talk about it because it's so quick. And a lot of you even brought up capitalism as potentially should we have, multi-billionaires who are collecting all the money, and is that the real solution? So I wanted to kind of go through maybe, and now by the way, we're releasing them from their years. We're back in the year 2024. Whether that is a simulation or not, that, is up to us.
Well, this is helpful for me. I need you to believe this.
Right.
Okay.
But I am curious, against all of this background, right? We have quite a busy schedule in 2024, a lot of things happening. What are the 1 to 2 kind of priorities that you have been thinking about going through this exercise that are things that we can do now to kind of pivot away from all of the potential negative repercussions that has happened in the 10 to 84 years from now? What are the things that we need to focus on?
Maybe I could start with that. I think that when you say what can we do, it depends who we are, obviously. If we are people who are skilled in the field of AI or have some knowledge in that field, I'm of course from a law background, but have some knowledge, not as much as others, of course, because I'm not a technical expert, though I've built quite a lot of knowledge in the area. I think we need to get better at communicating across disciplines. Need to be able to create forums where we are able to discuss things on a, with some shared terminology, with with sort of a mutual respect, and not just across sort of academic disciplines in an academic space, but together with just members of the public, people from different backgrounds, and we need to be working right now on that, because that's the only way we're going to be able to head off some of these huge issues, head them off at the post, is that the term? Yes, and make sure that we can anticipate what's coming and deal with it. I can continue, but I'm imagining others I want to add.
I think to build on that, what we can do now, I think, is to stop shouting into an echo chamber. We need to talk with everyone beyond our own immediate sphere. We need to engage with people, the people that AI and other technologies will impact, because they have to have a say. It is not for us, any of us, billionaires or not, to determine what is best for humanity without consulting 90% of the population of this world. This is our world, but you know, to people out on the street, they couldn't care less about what we're talking about in here. And we need to understand how technology can impact people and actually make everyone's lives better, because ultimately that's what technology should be for. And yeah.
We have such a bad track record at doing that, though.
Yes.
You know, the Reformation, Industrial Revolution, Soviet Union, all these things were imposed on vast populations without their awareness or consent, and didn't necessarily end well for lots of them. And I think that's the thing that really worries me. You talked a bit about deliberative democracy and ideas like that, finding mechanisms which allow that to happen. I think that the analogy I've been thinking about is that we're turning modern society, industrial society, from a 747 to a fighter plane. So 747 can actually fly. If the engine's cut out on a 747, it will glide. You can land one on no engines. Engines cut out, or the computer's cut out on a fighter plane, it falls from the sky like a brick, because it cannot actually fly. The price of maneuverability is adjusting the air surfaces thousands of times a second in a complex series of calculations that allow it to dance in the air. And we have decided, all of us in this room, the proponents of AI, that that's the sort of world we want to live in, one that can dance. Unfortunately, if it trips over, it tends to hurt itself. And I think we just need to think about ways in which we might stabilize the world and make it more able to glide when things go wrong, instead of constantly moving forward to build these incredibly fragile support mechanisms on which we depend.
Nice. Thank you for that. I'm going to turn to my little bit more positive question.
Oh, God, I thought that was the positive question.
That was not the positive question.
Whoa.
We'll go real positive now, because you were talking about finding mechanisms. I've also thought of this exercise that we've forced you into doing as kind of a sci-fi exercise, if you will. And I'm going to plug in a little bit in another session. But I wanted to ask you, where do you find solace, hope, joy in the discussion today? So who do you listen to? Who's in your bookshelf? Visual performance artists, writers, science fiction writers, perhaps podcasts, thinkers, theorists. Who are the inspiring people that you turn to for this type of, finding joy? Because I think we're all kind of scrambling a little bit for that these days. And I think it's good to bring those people into the room who are building those mechanisms that enable.
Specifically around AI.
Yeah.
Specifically around AI. Gives me joy. Comfort.
Or hope of some form.
Rather than despair. I don't know. I mean, there's people who cheer me up, like Cory Doctorow, but that's only because he's so angry at the moment. And I love the man dearly, but his anger comforts me. As the Clash sang, let fury have the hour, anger can be power. And I think what Cory's doing is really helpful. I've been reading a lot of philosophy, actually, mostly 1950 stuff, around Frank Ramsey and Elizabeth Anscombe and Philippa Foot and people like that, around the pushback against analytical philosophy in the 1950s, and how the people who resisted Alfred Ayer and John Austin succeeded in putting sort of humanity back into metaphysics. And that reassures me, because there was a massive philosophical movement which was resisted, even though it had all the power in the 50s and 60s, to go back saying, actually, we need to be able to have ethical statements which have meaning. So I get hope from the fact that in the past, we've had these massive intellectual challenges and we have dealt with them. Read Cheryl Misak's biography of Frank Ramsey, and read Metaphysical Animals, if you want to cheer yourselves up.
Yeah, I mean, I must have a funny sort of brain, I think, because I don't really need to read positive stuff to feel positive. I don't know if that makes sense, okay? Because I've always, I mean, as a, even growing up, I liked Kafka, okay? This gives you a window into the mind, right? But Kafka was a lawyer, right? And he was also a reformer, okay? And so what he was doing in his writing was, giving you, a dystopian vision, you could say, right? Kay in his novels, faces this faceless bureaucracy, can't, always trying, for example, in the castle, trying to get there, never achieving it. But I think that, having people who can visualize these alternative worlds can really, allow us to focus on things that matter to ourselves, okay, and to human beings as a whole. And I think that there's a lot of artists working in the field, both with our AI and also trying to communicate AI. And the images I showed obviously are part of a project that I've been working on. I think that there's enormous possibilities. Gosh, if you can intersect these things, the science, or there's a stand here, VisTig, the CUSP London, they're sort of connected to King's College London. They're dealing with ways in which you can help visualize things, all right? And if you connect fiction, art, visualizations, you're tapping into something in people's minds. I do think that provides a real possibility for allowing us to understand these things which are, black box and not understandable on face value, or at least understand where our boundaries are. And maybe that's, the key.
I think a bit like Carrie, I'm naturally an optimistic person. I'm very positive about things. I don't need to read things to reinforce that optimism. But if I had to give something that gives hope, for example, the work we've been doing with children, I think just hearing children's perspectives on our AI futures does give me hope, because essentially this is their world, their future world we're talking about, and they can articulate like such fantastic ideas and concerns at the same time about what we can do with technologies like AI. In terms of sci-fi, I don't actually read very much sci-fi at all, although I just finished a book that I found was quite an interesting mechanism of communicating AI concepts to people by Kai-Fu Lee. Not sure if you read it, AI 2042. It's actually 10 short stories. He collaborated with a sci-fi writer to illustrate 10 different scenarios around AI. And it was quite a fascinating way of doing it. It was from 2021, so it's pre the Gen AI hype. But it was just a really good way to communicate to people where some of these technologies could be heading, what our future could be with this, for better or worse. And I think sci-fi does have a big role in that. What makes me happy? Wall-E made me happy. It was like sad, but then it was happy because it gave hope. That little plant. We're not doomed after all. And Star Trek. The future in Star Trek is an endlessly hopeful one. Where we're in a world post-poverty, post-currency, post-money, where, intergalactic alliances take place. Of course, they have to fight each other at some point, because otherwise it'd be really dull. But, so I think, I think you have to choose what works for you, yeah.
So what I hear is metaphysics, alternative worlds, and self-sufficient rage. That's what I've written down for myself as places to turn for.
I like that.
I want to turn.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, we have 5 more minutes, so I'm going to turn now to some of these questions that have come in.
Great questions.
One of the things that someone has asked that is the most upvoted question is, what happened to the internet when it got flooded by AI content, retrained on AI content, retrained on AI content, retrained on AI content?
It was the end of the simulation.
Right. It's also described as the cone of, what is it? If someone knows, it's called something like the cone of information, like depletion or something. Yes. Like this idea that like we've created everything now, and then now we just retrain AI models until they're sort of.
That's like people saying we should close the patent office because we've invented everything. Okay, my answer to that is with current models, right? And it's pretty clear from some of the research, current encodings, current approaches, current models are reaching their limit anyway. And we're going to have a new version of it. The question is, how do we manage, what do you train those models on? And how do you protect yourself from the adulteration of the data set? And as a species, we've done such a great job of protecting ourselves from the adulteration of the environment, of food, of air, of everything else, that frankly, I don't think we stand a chance. But we could, if we chose to do it, we could try to find a way. In my optimistic days, I actually am a big fan of synthetic data. And I think the more effort that goes into synthetic data for training, particularly then allowing you to counteract the bias in historical data in lots of the stuff that's been trained on. We might have a more consistent approach there, where the model is trained on something which is generated to deliver a set of known outcomes. But I also think there's going to be a model for everything. Eventually, you'll train a model on your phone to do a job and then throw it away. It's not going to be 350,000 GPUs in someone's data center. The current encodings are so inefficient, and the human brain is so efficient, and somewhere in between is a sweet spot.
That's a good answer. I don't
Yeah.
I can't follow that. Yeah, no.
All right. I will juggle something else to the two of you then. I found one, the latest question actually much more interesting than a lot of the things that I had seen. Is it just us humans and AI in the future? What about all the other species? AI enabled us to talk to them for their insights, and they also got their own votes, question mark. So are we dealing here with, when we're looking into the future, is it just humans present in these?
I was kind of laughing when we got our years, because I was like, are humans even around in 2007? At the rate we're going. Yeah, I don't know, like, the future of Dr. Dolittle, where we can talk to animals, it sounds rather wonderful, but you can just imagine what animals might say to us, right? What are you doing?
There's a brilliant sketch. I think it's who are the guys who did it's a UK TV show called Peep Show, but it doesn't. It's not what you think it is. It's a comedy, and there's this sketch. They're sort of saying, if you could hear what the robin was saying, like in the tree, and you're listening, and it's this beautiful song, and it's okay. Well, what's the robin saying? It's like what's this? Look here, this year tree belongs to me, is like a football hooligan, and it's saying, like, how does this disturb our vision of the future? Do I want to know what the birds are saying? It sounds so beautiful, but they're just sort of shouting at each other, like, get away, this is my environment. So of course, why not? We saw in the Christmas lectures here, Mike Woodridge, who was Alan Turing, from Alan Turing, talking to somebody who is listening to whale song and understanding what whale song is. Of course, we're going to get to that point, I think, where we understand a lot more what animals are saying to us and others. That could really be interesting, how it changes, legally, yeah? Like, I suddenly understand what their rights are and what they're thinking. What does that suddenly do for law? Given we've not got a time point on that, I don't see why it's not possible.
Just briefly, it's worth reading James Bridle's recent book, Ways of Being, which is about alternative consciousnesses in other species and plants and things like that. Lovely exploration of the limitations of thinking like a human.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can add that to the thinking around, let's bring extraterrestrials into this, right? Because if we're talking about the future, is it just humans and AI? I always found it bizarre that our search for life elsewhere is using our parameters for life. It's just like, that seems so close-minded to me. Surely, there could be life that exists, how they search for water. Oh, there could be life if there's water. But why? Just because we have life because of water doesn't necessarily, we need to expand our horizons on that, right? And maybe that's probably why we might never get visited by extraterrestrials, because they're probably looking like, ugh, humanity, jeez.
Every chair in this room agrees with you.
So unfortunately, that brings us to a close. So we're going to end on a humanity moment. But that seems appropriate for an Imagine Future session somehow. With that, I would like to thank our panelists. Thank you so much to Carrie, Steph, and Bill for your enlightening visions and thoughtful answers. I also want to thank you, our audience in the room and online, for your engaged participation. I hope that you, like me, were reminded of the immense potential and responsibility that comes with advancing AI technology. So give them a round of applause, please. I have one more minute. Can I just say one more thing? Yeah. So I just want to add, before I leave you, I want to invite you to two things. First, I want to invite you to continuing this enriching conversation at our upcoming session with science fiction writer Adrian Tchaikovsky, which is happening here in just 10 minutes. And so I think that's what Lydia is going to say to us. And then after that, I invite you to join us at the long table, which you might not have been to yet. It's in the Turing Hub downstairs, where we will collaboratively envision the future in a science fiction kind of collaborative writing workshop-y thing. So join us down there at 3:30. And once again, thank you so much for being here for Imagined Futures. It was immensely joyful. Thank you.